Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in to alternate ending. Tune in to alternate ending. Tune in to alternate ending. Tune in to alternate ending now. Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
And welcome to Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm your host, film school dropout Robert Jarosinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer, Carrie Jarosinski. And last but not least, our critic in residence, Tim Braden. This is a special episode as we take the entire time of our episode looking back on the year with our top 5 movies of 2016. But before we do, our website is now been live for a little over almost 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks on Monday?
2 weeks as of Monday, yeah.
Very nice.
So today.
So thankfully it actually worked day one, which I was pretty excited about. But we are probably a good bit of distance from perfect.
Yeah, we have heard your comments through various social media channels and through the comments of the website, and we know that there are things that need to be fixed, and trust us, there are things none of you have called our attention to yet that we know that needs to be fixed. So there's a lot of tweaks here and there and some things that aren't quite going right, and certainly those of you who have visited the review index are aware that it's not done, and we are working to get it done. That will be a long-term process, so we thank you all for your patience.
No, thank you for your patience. I think it goes to show, Tim, what the mistake of Antagony and Ecstasy was, which was setting the bar really high with your site and the content that it had. We haven't heard much from the former Alternate Ending pod.
No, they're all fine.
They're all fine. They're like, thank goodness there's
something better.
There's something. Like, the fact that your site was so comprehensive, I think that is
a lot of data. A lot of data.
A lot of long nights, I think, for all of us the last 2 weeks and prior to preceding the launch as well.
And I thank you to all of my readers from Antagony and Ecstasy who are still with us, who are still surviving our birthing pains here at Alternate Ending, and hopefully it will not be too much longer, but we're glad to have you here. We're glad that you made the jump with me to Rob and Carrie's sandbox. So
what's nice is Carrie doesn't actually take feedback well. This is something I've learned in the years of marriage that we've had together. So this has been a really good incentive to get you to learn how to code and get you up to speed.
Yeah.
Carrie's coding. That's amazing.
I'm going to do whatever it takes to not get another negative comment. It like fuels it. I'm like, must go to sleep. My kids are going to wake up at 6 a.m. But then I'm like, must code one more movie.
Yeah, the routine has been get the kids down and then up 3-4 hours every night. Just
3-4 hours. So
I got done with my portion.
The real routine is Rob's like, yeah, we got to work on the website by like 9:30. You're dozing at the computer. You're like, I'm going to just turn it in a little bit. Then there's me. I'm up till 2, 3. Sitting there working, burning the midnight oil.
That's I very much appreciate that dedication.
I'm exaggerating. It's like 11:30, but it's late.
Care about this website. He does not care about this website.
I don't care about the website either, but I do care about not getting negative feedback. So.
I feel like the talent just shows up, and that's kind of the expectation. Like, that you have, the secondary and tertiary members of the group kind of carry the load, and I'm just here to.
Oh, you're carrying a load.
Should we shift over to Oscar nominees?
We should.
One thing we did, which I was excited about, we both were live tweeting the Oscar nominations, and that was pretty exciting. Thanks for taking the kids to school so I could be able to do that, Care.
I'm pitching in.
So I don't know. I don't feel like there were too many surprises.
It was not a surprising year. It was kind of disappointing. Like, there's always the fun thing where someone shockingly gets left out or someone even more shockingly gets included. And it's Amy Adams and Best Actress is like the only thing that I think reasonably rises to the level of a surprise.
Yeah.
Personally, I was not expecting to see Passengers get any nominations. It got 2.
Well, what did it get nominated for?
God Love, Best Score and Best Production Design. But those are Best Score and Best Production Design. People don't. I mean, we care about them because we care about the art of cinema, but no one is like, oh my God, did you see what got nominated for Best Production Design? Except for other production designers. And it's an important, I don't want to belittle production design, but it's definitely not something that we think about as being like a major thing at the Oscars. So for that to be the biggest surprise of the night is kind of like, yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to remember now. Was Hidden Figures nominated for Best Picture?
It was.
I feel like that's a little surprising.
I don't think that qualified as a surprise,
Yeah?
honestly. I mean, maybe I just got lucky. I predicted the 9.
I enjoyed it, so I
predicted
wanna-
the 9 Best Picture nominees, so like maybe I just have insight. But I think people were expecting that.
Maybe I just have insight. I was a little bit surprised by not seeing Hello, My Name is Doris on there.
Yeah, your top 5 most anticipated. The
Yeah.
Oscars really, all they needed to do, they don't
Bit
even
of a
need
fail.
they don't even need a vote. They just need to take your
Yeah.
top 5 most anticipated, and boom, there's your Oscar nominees right there.
I mean, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah,
So-
we'll probably get into a little bit on how our top 5 most anticipated fared in conjunction with our actual top 5 movies of 2016. I do want to hang on one second too on the nominations itself. I didn't realize they were going to be doing this pre-recorded.
Right.
That I don't know.
So for those of you who did not watch the Oscars at the ungodly hour of, was it 7?
like 7 a.m.
7:18 Central. So.
Oh, yeah.
So for
random
those of you on the
time.
West Coast, you were probably still up from the night before when the Oscar nominees were announced. But what they did was they had this pre-recorded series of celebrities talking about, the various arts and crafts involved. And then the celebrity videos would stop and this very dry, like almost computer generated female voice would come and read us the nominees in each category over this like gray field. And it was the most lifeless way of presenting the nominees. I did not like it.
Yeah.
I did not like it at all.
I did not care for it, and it went really fast, which I'm sure speed is an element that they're trying to incorporate. If anything in the Oscars is trying to increase speed of delivery of things, but yeah, it just took away the excitement for me.
Well, because one of the things I tweeted about this. One of the things I always like about getting up to watch this is that you have this press corps in Los Angeles full of people who are very tired and very angry to be there, who respond really vocally to the nominations. They cheer, they boo. They don't boo, but they cheer, they gasp, they clap. They have all sorts of like really involved reactions, and that did not happen.
Yeah.
And of course it didn't, because it was a live stream, and I found that really robbed the experience of a lot of its like charm.
Was this a first for
time.
this?
Yeah. First time it ever
During
happened.
the- okay.
And during the process too, they actually talked a little bit about, hey, it used to be kind of pre-recorded too. Like in 1932, we used to do this, so this isn't unusual. They kind of try to set the stage so that to get ahead
Is
of
it
it
a
little bit.
cost-saving thing?
No, I think it's to eliminate.
It's literally because the press corps that has to get up at 3 a.m. to be at that room at 5 in
That's
the
the
morning
only
in Los
reason.
Angeles has spent years complaining about it.
Okay.
You have more control over, obviously, than a live setting. You just the extra added element of control over it. I know one surprise for you, Kara, was not seeing Gleason on the top documentary feature length.
I
list.
know. I'm very
was
disappointed.
You actually went out on Facebook and commented on it, and you got a response from Team Gleason.
It's one of the high points. It's one of the high and low points of my life to date. I was the only person that he responded to when I said congratulations.
Was it still a high point when I brought it to your attention hours later when I got home from work? That
I said there was a low point in there. I already
what
said there was a low
what
point.
Was the low point exactly? Would you remind me?
I don't need to talk about it. It was mixed, a mixed emotion writing to him.
How he preserved instead of
You're
persevered.
gonna bring it up.
Yeah.
You're gonna bring it up. There was a typo. Okay,
Yeah.
there was a typo in my post, but he did respond to me, and I think I corrected it before you noticed.
Okay. He's busy. He's responding to a lot of
That's right.
people. Well, let's dive into our top 5 movies of 2016. I'm really curious how all of you. We'll start maybe with we'll start ladies first. Kara, how did you go about picking your top 5 movies? What was the system in which you used?
This I always struggle here, and I know you like that when I struggle. But I guess I went to, first off, what are movies that I remembered without looking up what movies existed in 2016? What ones just popped into my mind, which is usually how I start for thoughts. So then I went with that list. Then I went with... That was about it. Then I looked at a list, like the overall movies, just to make sure I didn't miss anything that I saw in Q1 or Q1 or Q2 of the year. There wasn't a lot from the beginning half of the year, and then narrowed it from there. I narrowed it to 6, narrowed to 5.
You got to 6 right pretty quickly.
Immediately.
Wow, that's impressive. Tim, what about you, buddy?
Well, I start the year logging every movie I see, not just in terms of that I saw it, but in terms of how would I rank this among the movies I've seen in the year. And then also for another blog post that I'll be publishing a couple weeks down the line where I sort of do my own version of the Oscars. What do I think had the best cinematography? What do I think had the best production design? What do I think had the best sound mixing and so on? So I keep a running log of that basically from the first time I see a movie in a calendar year, which is why I can already say that so far the best movie of 2017 is Monster Trucks. And it is, literally. I've seen 3 movies from 2017 and Monster Trucks is far and away the least awful. So yay for 2017. But so I have this ongoing list from the start of the year that is more or less complete by the time we get to the end of the year. Then I just do a little bit of rewatching because I have a problem with wanting to cling to the movies that I saw a while ago, sort of the opposite of what a lot of critics groups in the Oscars have, where it's recency is sort of everything that came out in the last 3 weeks is what gets nominated. My situation is that if I've had a movie as the best film of the year for months, I kind of have a hard time shaking that and like, well, I saw this movie that's really good, but do I know it's as good? So I tend to rewatch the films that I think are going to be in my top 10, and then I just, shuffle as needed.
Well, that's interesting.
That's rigorous.
Yeah.
That's a bit more rigorous than my method.
Well, I know that I see more movies than I think both of you combined.
How many have you seen this year?
This year I have seen 141.5 movies.
0.5.
That half movie?
The 0.5 is because I have watched the first 3 episodes of the television series that is in no way, shape, or form a movie, OJ Made in America, that has somehow been granted the status of movie by awards-giving bodies, and so we are officially calling it that, even though it's really super not.
Really not.
It's really not.
Okay. So just the 141 is what
So
you're saying.
that is double. That is double me, at least. I think I saw somewhere around in the neighborhood of a little over 70 movies of movies made in 2016. My process was a little different, and you brought up something interesting too. Is you look at cinematography, you're keeping separate lists as you go. I think that's been the difficult thing for me as we've done this process of now having a website and having to rate movies on a scale of 1 or 0 stars or we don't go down to 0. Everything gets a half
sadly,
star.
For those of you who have asked, the coding will not display 0 stars.
Right.
So the worst we can call a movie is a half a star.
So
But it means it's really, really bad. So if you see a half a star, it means it's a real pooper.
I'm comfortable saying a movie is, on a 3, like, do I not like it, or love it? Like, that's very easy for me. But when I start getting down in that half scale, having to segment movies out that way and trying to figure out why I like something better, I reach a really difficult point for myself, kind of in between the casual moviegoer and a critic in residence, basically, that it presents a challenge to not look at a movie critically and realize why a movie technically should be good, but then do I actually like it better because of those technicalities? And I'm kind of stuck oftentimes trying to rate those movies. So going back through my 70 or so movies that I looked at, I had to make some last minute adjustments and try to be a little bit more true to myself and pick movies that I liked better, not just that I thought were better movies, but that I actually liked better. So as a critic, I'm just curious, how do you you're looking at it as the sum of its parts. Are you really going with, when you rate a movie high, is it the movie that you liked the best and it just happens to have the best elements?
That is a very loaded question. I could easily ruin the rest of this podcast by talking about nothing besides the question you just raised. So you're basically saying, is this a list of the best films or my favorite films of the year? And it's both.
Okay.
Certainly films make it in my top 5 that are not pleasurable to watch. Maybe not my top 5. In my top 10, there are films that I would not say are like fun, like, oh, I can't wait to go out and watch that movie again. But movies that are like so impressive on some aesthetic level that I feel that I have to acknowledge them because they really moved me and they really challenged my idea of what the art form could do. But at the same time, I don't like watching them really.
Because here's where I was. I had 3.5 star movies. So what I did is I went back and looked at all my 3.5 star plus movies of 2016 and just started narrowing it down. And then I realized I liked some 3.5 star movies better than I liked 4 star. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, wait, how does that compute? That doesn't compute. So do I have to move that one higher and this one lower? And it's just been a constant struggle.
So what were your parameters for how you got to these?
The
same question to you.
3.5 star was my starting list, and then I realized it's too long of a list, so I started at 4 star movies, and I think I had about 10 4-star plus movies, and I had to make some movements because I started second guessing my ratings to it and wanted to go back more to the purity. Did I actually like this movie better? Not that my 1 year in film school, knowing what elements of a movie should be, maybe those things are missing from some of the ones I really liked better. So just focus on the things that I like the best.
Okay.
And I don't want to turn this into a thing where I talk about. So as most of you know, I am a PhD or a master's student, soon to become a PhD student in grad school. And I don't want to turn this into a thing where like I start dragging that in because we will scare all of you away and that would be awful. But I did happen this weekend to read an article, a really excellent essay by Susan Sontag called On Style that talks at some length about how there is pleasure in aesthetic goodness. Like when you know what you're looking for, it gives you pleasure to find it. And so there is a point at which well-crafted cinema is also enjoyable cinema that you like. And so if you like it better, I think that's speaking to the fact that there is something going on there that's worth acknowledging.
Yeah, and it's probably just not having gone through and fully finished to know how to look at a movie the way that you look at a movie. So that's what's nice about our differing perspectives. Hopefully we'll bring in some different picks. So with that being said, are we expecting any overlap amongst our picks?
No.
I
pretty
expect
confident.
3.
You expect there will be 3 on your
With
list?
somebody in this room.
With someone.
I expect that my list might have overlap with one of your worst of the year lists.
Okay.
So
I would also imagine that to be possible, knowing.
I think as different as our tastes are, Care, I think I agree. I think I'll probably see. I think there will be probably.
You'll be
about 3
more in
movies.
line with me,
I think there will be, which is I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not shocking. Not to say that it's an embarrassment to be aligned.
And I
with
will
you.
say I mostly choose on likability, so these are the movies I liked.
And I want to just clarify and stress something. I think likability is really important. I think
is.
that going to movies and getting pleasure out of it is a very, very important thing. Mm-hmm.
So should I start with?
So I never really resolved. I just want to say this. I never really resolved when I'm picking a list. I'm not really picking what I think is quote unquote the best. I really am picking what is my favorite.
Okay.
So then
But
right
for
along.
me, there's a very narrow.
Right along 2, followed by Central Intelligence. Top 5 and 4.
Yes.
For you right there. Did I just steal 'em?
Well, you did, but that's okay. And then of course, number 1 is Warcraft.
Warcraft. Very good.
I loved all of those movies. So we already have 3 that overlap. So
We
that's-
haven't figured out who goes first. Who wants to go first, Tim?
I think. Well, I
Well,
think
we'll
let
keep
you
running.
go
Let just go
Yeah,
first. All right, go ahead, Care.
Okay, you always do this to me. Put me on the spot. I'm using a smaller tablet today, which is
Your
my
phablet?
Fancy way of
6S
saying
phone.
phone.
I'm trying to get with the times here. I will start with something that Rob already alluded to. I guess I won't say the year it's from. The movie Gleason was my number 5. Documentary chronicling the life of Steve Gleason, one of my friends that we navigate social media together on. He's a former football player for the New Orleans Saints, and he's diagnosed with ALS. I think I talked about it actually just in the last episode. If you missed that, there was a little bit of crying in the last episode. Promise not to cry again, although I'm starting to feel a little teary. But really difficult documentary to watch. Chronicles the life of him and his family as he finds out that he has ALS. It spans a 5-year period of time, so you're basically seeing the deterioration of a person and their health. He has a little kid and he's married, and so he's doing video, like a video diary that he wants to give to his son that he'll have when he's older. And I read a lot about it afterwards because I thought it was just a really moving movie, and anything like that where I feel like just so real. It's just so real. And so there was some, feedback about the movie that he responded to around saying, I wanted it to be real. I wanted it to be raw. I wanted you to see that it's not all glitter. You don't just, things aren't always easy. And I think it was just really well done. And I think when I go back to why something lands on my list, it's because it's something that I will never forget. It'll be a movie that I carry with me forever. And so, it made my number 5 because I'm not, when you talk about like, was it the best shot movie? It kind of felt at times like maybe it was on like a home.
Oh, it was all GoPros, I think.
Like GoPros and like, was it the best shot movie? Was it, the best cuts? Was it the best all these things? Probably not. And again, going back to what you said, like, do I feel like I loved it and I want to watch it again? Probably not, purely because it was so difficult to watch. But at the same time, it left and resonated something with me that I won't forget, which is why it made my top 5.
Very nice. Is this a movie you've seen, Tim?
Actually, this is not a movie I've seen, so I've already
Gotta see
excited.
it.
I'm excited by this because now I like.
We can
even
weep
though I've
together.
Seen 141 movies like this now. It makes me excited to see another one. 'Cause, like,
good.
I honestly knew very little about it, so
It's
hearing that
good.
it's that moving. Is
It's
really,
streaming on Amazon Prime right now for those who have the availability to do that. But it's worth going on and even making the investment if you haven't seen it. I think as well.
Yeah, well, I will-
Made my honorable mentions.
I would like to pledge that by the time of our next podcast together, I will have seen it and I will share my thoughts.
Oh, that's
with
good.
you guys.
We'll hold hands and cry together
We
a
will
little bit.
weep.
Okay, we'll weep together.
Tears. Yeah, no, I'm excited
Yeah.
to
I hope.
hear
Yeah,
about
I
a
hope
movie
you
that
like
was
it.
really not on my radar.
Yeah.
Tim, number 5 for you.
Number 5 for me, I kind of
Tim has no notes, by the
I
way.
feel shallow. I don't want to like go after that because I have nowhere near the same emotional responsiveness. But my number 5 of the year was Jackie.
Oh,
The biopic kind of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, not Onassis at that point, of course, in the week following the assassination of JFK. And so the reason I really responded to it is I tend to hate biopics. Like they are my least favorite genre. When I hear that something is the inspiring true story of a real life person, like I already go into it with a chip on my shoulder. And not that this was, being sold as inspiring, but when I see something that takes that genre and does things with it that are unexpected and really stylistically interesting and builds it around an amazing, amazing performance. And I know it's a cliche to say that, this actor doesn't play this real life character, they become this real life character. And I don't think that's really what's going on necessarily with Natalie Portman playing Jackie, but it is a really amazing act of mimicry that's also sort of peels away how the real life Jackie Kennedy already was a performance to a certain degree. So it's like this nested playing Jackie who is playing Jackie kind of situation. So that's already really great. It's one of the best English language performances I've seen this year. But also the film itself just really amazed me with how it breaks down its narrative structure, because it doesn't really take place in order. Like there's a framework narrative 6 days after the assassination, and that moves chronologically forward. But the rest of the movie doesn't really. It's all jumbled up and in a way that I think really effectively illustrates how Jackie was mourning and like how the mourning process works and how you can connect ideas across time and you have certain memories that are triggered by your pain in the mourning process. And then it also acknowledges the reality that she had to do her mourning in a very public way and she had to lead the United States in mourning and how that was an additional drain on her resources. So it's this really interesting mixture of like private grief, what public grief is, what it even means to mourn a president that you never knew. And then another plot line that involves just like how a very religious person deals with all of this, causing her to have a really strong crisis of faith. So it's thematically all sorts of stuff going on. And I just really loved the way it was structured. I thought it was very beautiful. It was one of the most unexpectedly shot movies of the year. It's all very soft with this very pinkish pastel color palette. So it's a beautiful movie, really emotionally complex movie, and it really struck me because I expected not that much of it, even though I've seen some of the director's other films and I've loved them. It was his second biopic of the year, and the other one, which is a film about Pablo Neruda called Neruda, is also really, really great. And that just like absolutely blew me away that it was such a good version of something that I had so little expectation for.
What's the span of time that it takes place over?
6 days.
Oh,
I like what you said too, is that whole public figure dealing, and I would say there are some parallels to what you were saying too, Care, with Gleason too, is how does someone in who's famous and obviously has notoriety, how do they cope, but having to do it kind of off camera and offside,
and in a public eye though at the same time,
because everybody's looking to her as the way to.
Yeah.
And this is in our blind spot. So we haven't seen
it yet.
It's probably something we should see.
Thank you. We'll see that. It's on our list, and
But I love storylines like that delve into. And I'm a big JFK fan. I don't write very often and don't read very much.
But when you do,
when I do, it's JFK.
It's JFK, and it's really
I'm
good.
fascinated with the mythology and.
Well, he's dead.
Did he die?
He died.
Oh.
I
about
love
his
that Tim is here. This is exactly what he did to me when I talked about Titanic. He's like, the boat crashed,
Well, I
like-
like conspiracy theories, so the Oliver Stone movie I've talked about this.
Well, actually, the movie's about how Jackie killed him.
Oh, that
It's
makes
about
so
how
much
she
sense now.
secretly
this is like a
hired
spoiler
Lee
alert.
Harvey Oswald.
I don't even know any of these things. I don't know any
No,
of these things.
it's a solid pick. I can't agree or disagree because we haven't seen
Okay,
it, but it's
we'll put
something-
it on our list.
I've seen
then.
the trailers and I'm moved by the trailers
And
alone.
it
so.
also has, not that this is like a reason to see or not see it, it has a strong candidate for the year's best score. So really, really, really
Cool.
good music.
Well,
What's
number
your
number five for me, a movie. I like to throw in the kind of unconventional oddball in my number five, just to give it some love because I feel it deserves it. It's from an up and coming and arrived, I think, director as well. I'm talking about 2016's Green Room. Just a very short and scant hour, 35 minutes. IMDb gives it 7.2, Rotten Tomatoes 90%. Directed by Jeremy Saulnier of Blue Ruin fame and Murder Party prior to that, starring Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots, Patrick Stewart playing Off-Type, which is it's a lot of fun to watch Patrick
Have
Stewart.
you seen this?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay, good. I
Get
saw
nasty.
all three of us have seen it.
Yeah. And Macon Blair, who I want to give a shout out to, just claimed the Sundance Grand Jury Prize and liked my tweet that was flattering to him. So I feel like I've got to mention it.
I hope you had a typo.
I did not have a typo.
You spelled his name wrong.
He's awesome in Blue Ruin. I've got to say that. But we're talking about Green Room. It's about and when you were describing the colors, and I don't have the degree of description that you can bring when describing movies, but the color and something about the visual style of Jeremy Saulnier really. The cinematography just really blows me away. Well, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about it.
Well, the thing that I haven't seen the movie is I saw the movie over the summer. I loved it at the time. It kind of weirdly hasn't stuck with me as much as I expected it to, especially like given Patrick Stewart's performance, which is, for those of you who haven't seen it, Patrick Stewart is playing a neo-Nazi. So a movie with political relevance. But it's just this really amazing performance of this kind of bored functionary, like he's just this old guy who just doesn't want to have to deal with the problems he's dealing with, but he's a skinhead played by Captain Picard. So it's really fascinating, but the movie didn't really stick with me as much as I wanted it to. But the one thing that has is the design of it and the look of it. And I think it's a movie named after a location. Like a green room is where the band
Hangs out
prior to
Rob knows
giving their concert.
from his old band days.
Oh yeah, I've been in many a green room and witnessed many a murder.
Many a murder.
And the green room in Green Room, I think, is just a fascinating space. And then the club that they are trying to navigate through after they've witnessed this murder and have to, get away from the skinheads, is just this really amazing set. And I think it's such a great space that the movie takes place in. And that's really the thing that I took away from it, is it's a beautifully designed film.
I'm just really excited to see, because I know from what I've read from Jeremy Saulnier too, is that this was his last before he takes off and gets taken away by Hollywood to go make multi-million
Make
dollar
movies that do not have colors in the title.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's other than
Blue.
Murder Party, Blue Ruin, and
Remember the Blue?
Green Room.
Yeah.
No, this was his third installment of kind of the inept protagonist, where it's the someone who has no business being put in a situation like this, but somehow manages to try to, find their way through it. So yeah, I've liked all. I'll say 2 out of 3 of his films. The first one was Out of the Gate Murder Party, didn't quite do it for me, but I'm excited to see where this goes next. I just wanted to throw it out there because it is also streaming on Amazon Prime right now. So if you haven't seen it, you come across it, I really highly recommend people check it out. But yeah, it's a punk rock band scraping by, get a gig. They're not Nazi supporters, but hey, you do anything you can to get by. They're siphoning gas out of cars to just get enough fuel to make it to their next gig. So they take this opportunity and they witness something horrific and get stuck.
And I will say, the scene where the first music, and really I think the only song they play for the Nazi audience, is Nazi Punks Fuck Off, which is, I think, a candidate for the best scene of the year.
So that was my number 5.
I thought it was fine. I don't know. It was fine for me. It wasn't something that would have made any sort of top 5 list for me. It was like, I didn't hate it, but it was okay.
Jeremy has captured the vibe that I like, the same type of vibe of a Fight Club, where it's dark and I don't know. Yeah, it has the thing that really resonates with me that I really enjoy about movies.
The darkness.
Number 4 for you?
Number 4 for me probably is on your list, or I would assume. is Manchester by the Sea. Did I take one of yours?
You have just taken my number 4.
Well, that's my number
We're
4.
fully lined up. Full lineup.
Ooh.
That doesn't happen
Is it
too
on
often.
yours, Tim?
It is not on
Because it's in
mine.
English and it doesn't have subtitles, right?
It is not
No.
subtitled. It's not in black and
It's
white.
not anime or super weird.
It takes place.
No.
Actually, it doesn't take place in chronological order, so I can't even say
That's
that.
true. That's true. Directed by and written by Kenneth Lonergan. Stars Casey Affleck, Michelle Williams from Dawson's Creek, if you remember her from there, and Kyle Chandler from Early Edition. It is an uncle is asked to go home after the loss. I mean, you first 15 minutes, right? We talk about first 15 minutes.
I think it's safe.
Is it safe? So after the loss of his brother, is asked to go home and care and look after his nephew. And so I think he goes back and he's unknowing about what his responsibilities are going to be. And he sort of finds out that the responsibility that he's about to take on is more than he considered. And he's brought to come up with a lot of choices and decisions that he may not have expected and didn't want to be put in the position to make at that time. And I think it puts him in the position to sort of relive his past. And so the whole movie is sort of a series of, present to flashback sort of series of those. And so you sort of learn more about the main character as you go along and the difficult path that he's been on. And for me, it gets an 8.3 on IMDb. I saw it with my mom. My mom and I we're both criers. Rob already had warned me going into it that I was going to cry.
Tim also texted me and said, "You're going to cry, Kara."
The parents, without spoiling what happens,
There's a parent element.
parents of young or youngish children would have an unusually hard time making it through that movie, I think.
Yeah. So I would agree. Anytime Rob challenges me on something, though, where he's like, you're going to do this, there's some sort of chemical reaction that happens in my body where I think, no, I'm not.
Blocks
I'm
your
not
tear
gonna
ducts.
cry. It blocks my tear. Like they immediately clog with anger. And then, and I rarely cry when those scenarios happen. In this case, it was enough to still what's that? It was still enough to continue to push me over the edge to have a couple teary moments. But it was just, I thought it was a slow movie, but it was one that to me just had a lot of different messages interwoven with it and unexpected moments, twists, and great acting performances by Michelle Williams and the scene.
I think there's a real possibility that in 3 categories of acting, it had the best performance of the year.
Yeah.
And Michelle Williams is in maybe 5 minutes of the film.
But it's that one scene
It's
with
that
the
one
lip.
scene. Yeah.
With the lip.
where she's like,
And she's holding her lip.
So
It's
oh my
raw.
God.
It's completely
Yeah.
raw. And if you, maybe not you guys as much as me, but if you've ever been in one of those scenarios where you're just so hurt, so sad, and you're trying not to cry, that's the
Right.
face where you're like, and it was, so I looked over at my mom and both of us are
And it's
clenching our faces.
It's such an awful scene because these are 2 people that you like. I mean, Michelle Williams makes you love this character with hardly any screen time.
Yeah.
You like these characters. You want them to both find some level of emotional satisfaction.
Yeah.
And you are aware through the entirety of the scene, they cannot both win the scene.
Yes.
One of them has to leave the scene having lost.
Yes.
They end up both losing.
Yeah, I mean, everybody
realistically.
loses. Yeah.
Everyone loses.
Devastating. It left me with a lot. It's a movie that I will remember. It's a movie that I will keep with me for a lot of reasons. It was tough, but different lighting in that one too. More of like a blue. I don't know why I'm talking about. I never talk about lighting in these things, but
I think
it
you're
was
on.
different. I feel like there was a tone to that movie that was different.
It's
too.
very wintry. It mostly takes place in winter, and there's a very wintry quality to it.
No, the reason it was on my number 4 as well too is just the acting alone just shoots its way up to the top of the list. The storyline is modest storyline as far as the simplicity of what's actually occurring. There's not a lot of complex. There's complexity.
It was a little bit
human
Richard
complexity.
Linklater for a minute there.
Oh yeah, it's just going.
See what I did there? No, not really though. I don't know.
So yeah, it was my number 4 as well. So
Cool.
High five.
High five to that.
Nice
yeah.
job.
I just want to. It's not on my top 5. I think it's an excellent movie in a lot of ways. I have a couple big reservations with it.
Please,
One
enlighten
is
us.
that we can't spoil, but the scene. So we know going into it that Casey Affleck's character has something happen to him in Manchester that is causing all of this psychological turmoil that gets ripped up when he has to go back. The trauma for him is not that his brother dies. The trauma for him is that he has to go back to the town that he clearly does not want to return to. And I think when we find out what the tragedy is, it's presented in such like over the top worst case scenario. This is awful. Are you crying? It's really sad. You should be feeling terrible. It kind of felt a little too much to me, and I kind of felt like it was misery porn.
Did you cry though?
I was a little bit too upset to cry. I was like, come on, this is not
too
fair.
much.
You're going too much. You've gone a little bit too far into just.
I also didn't like how it ended.
Crazy.
I didn't end how I wanted to, but again,
I think the ending was unsatisfying on purpose.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, but I still was
so
mad.
a couple of people who posted on the site actually wrote about there was an ambulance, and I won't talk too much about that, but that where there was some issues with getting the. Apparently that just happened, and the director just said leave it in.
That's what makes Lonergan a great director. Is he's so good at capturing these moments of like life is going to happen, and you can't stop life from happening. And that's actually one of the other reasons I can't quite get on board with this one. Is I like his other two movies better. And I know that's not fair of me, but like I watch it and I'm like, well, why isn't this Margaret? Or why isn't this You Can Count on Me, which are two wonderful movies and everyone should see them. But that just sort of held me back.
Well, I kind of want to go back and if you're saying that, I'd
Margaret is like an entire film worth of that ambulance scene.
Wow.
Honestly, like if that's a part of the movie you respond to, like that is Margaret. The other thing, and again without spoiling, there is a scene with Matthew Broderick in the film.
Oh yeah, that was a little weird.
Yeah,
that's bad.
I pointed that out to when you guys came back from the theater too.
You know what my mom's response was?
Took
She was
me
like,
out of the movie.
Matthew Broderick. I didn't see him in the movie, and I was like, Mom, it was the dad. It was the guy.
And what did she say in response?
She's like, well, I didn't even recognize him.
He's put on a little weight.
His hair got a little gray. I was like, well, you haven't seen him since Ferris Bueller's Day Off, so that was how many years ago? But yeah, same feelings, I think, same sentiments on my side.
Well, my number 4 is probably going to be the most controversial film on my top 5 outside of this room. It will certainly not be the most controversial film inside of this room. My number 4 is Knight of Cups by Terrence Malick.
Wow.
It is his follow-up to what I think is his only bad film, To the Wonder, and I was kind of bummed out and expecting Knight of Cups was going to be more of the same. Like I assumed after Tree of Life, which came out in 2011 in the States, but I think it came out in 2010. I'm not sure. Anyway, so a few years ago, Tree of Life came out. A great film. He'd been working on it for most of his life. And then his follow-up to that was this really disappointing love drama that doesn't really do anything and the wrong characters are emphasized. And so I was expecting very little out of Knight of Cups, especially because a few people that I really trust had really negative things to say about it. And I was just absolutely blown away by how beautiful the film is. It is shot by Emmanuel Lubezki, who is the best. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He's the best cinematographer alive right now. Shot using GoPros. So it's what you see what happens when the most cheap ass prosumer equipment is used by the most talented cinematographer. And it's just this amazing, like sort of wrenching beauty out of this really guttural digital crap in a way that makes it somehow more beautiful to me because it is like unexpected. It's like you're walking along like an industrial beach and you all of a sudden just see gemstones or something. And also the structure of the film is not a narrative. It's basically an adaptation of the tarot deck done as a movie. And it's completely unexpected. It is by far, of all the movies I saw this year, the one that challenged me the most. It is not very interesting as a story. And that is why I can't put it higher than number 4. It tells a very banal story about this guy went to Los Angeles and he met a lot of ladies and he had sex with them and he was sad. And I don't think that's inherently
it seems kind of good, from the way you described it just there.
Inherently you can't like say, well, that can't work as a story because we don't care about this man because, the movie makes us kind of care about him. But it's not terribly interesting characters. Some of the performances are excellent. I think Cate Blanchett gives one of the best performances of the year in the film. Some of the performances are less so, but it is, I think, just in recognition of how it is poetry. It is not a movie. It flows in this really interesting way. It has these really interesting philosophical ideas that it draws down. So it's worth seeing if you want to see something that isn't, I mean, it's a story about a guy who goes to Los Angeles and has a lot of sex, but that's not what it is. It's about the the spiritual ramifications of being him.
How accessible is a movie?
Yeah.
I find Terrence Malick movies very difficult to watch.
It is Terrence Malick's most difficult movie by a lot.
Wow. So this
It is not an accessible movie at all.
all right.
like actually difficult to watch. Like you can't find it to watch.
It's an adaptation of the Tarot deck.
No. I mean.
Painful to watch.
No.
Wait, what's happening?
Will you and I understand what the hell is going
difficult.
on?
I did not I
Yeah.
watched the movie. It made no sense to me. I read the Wikipedia page, and it's very clear that it's about tarot. Like the movie's in chapters, all of which are named after tarot cards. So I went to the Wikipedia page for tarot after I saw the movie, and a whole bunch of stuff started clicking. So then I rewatched it with that in mind, and then it just becomes this really rich experience. But I mean, you have to care about that.
So you're making the look. This is a lot like
Carrie's giving me a look.
in English class when like people would read into things, and I'm like, I'm just reading what's on the
Just
page.
read the page.
And then
Yeah.
there's a lot more going on. And Terrence Malick there's a lot more on the.
He is
There's a lot more
literally
than
a
on the
philosophy
page.
professor who
Right.
became a film director.
Okay.
So you're gonna. I mean, we can
I
watch
hate
this.
philosophy,
It starts.
yeah.
I would avoid
Christian
Knight of
Bale,
Cups.
right?
Yeah.
Christian Bale.
Knight
Christian
of
Bale.
Cups is in the trash right now for me, but for other Tim followers.
And what's
maybe
funny
put it-
is like I want to be that guy that gets that movie.
I don't.
and I'm not that guy. So
I don't wanna be
I'm
that
not that
guy.
guy. I got to be that guy literally by reading a Wikipedia page. So
It transformed you. I see.
anyway, it was
Yeah.
the most life-altering Wikipedia experience
Yeah.
I've ever had.
Okay. So Central Intelligence is next for you, right above that. Those actually seem like they're probably in the same category to me based on what you just described. So
a miss a little bit by Cate Blanchett not being recognized for her performance.
Oh, she was never going to be.
Oh, okay.
I'm more outraged by Lubeski not being nominated, even though he's won 3 times in a row, but it was not an Oscar play.
Right. Who is he known to partner with on the director front?
The
cinematographer.
3 people he's worked with most prominently are Malick, Alejandro González Iñárritu,
That's
who
what I
won
remember,
him
yes.
2 of his Oscars,
Yep.
and Alfonso Cuarón, who won him his other Oscar.
Got it. It was Iñárritu that I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
The Revenant and Birdman.
Got it.
I never saw Birdman, but anyway, I digress.
I like it. A lot of people hate.
I like it.
I feel like I would hate it. Would I like it?
Well, I think there were aspects of it that the difficulty of the direction that you would not fully appreciate if you didn't have that film background to
Sure.
be like, oh my God,
think
how is this happening?
There are people who have a very in-depth film background who fucking
Still hated it.
Still hate
yeah.
it?
Wow. I am. It's like a film that is broadly hated in the program I'm in.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
Good. I mean, I stand with those
but none
people.
of those people are here, so they can't.
So they,
Number 3 for you?
number 3 for me. I feel so good about my list, P.S.
It's a good list so far.
I feel good so far. I toyed with it a bit. Number 3 for me is the movie Lion. Right?
I'm glad you're mentioning it. I do not have it on
Have you
my
not
list.
seen Lion?
I want to take credit for pushing you two.
You guys
Wait,
did
when did you
push
do
us.
this?
Rob texted me.
Oh.
And said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I basically said you guys will.
You guys have to see Lion. Okay,
I
yeah.
gave him a list of movies we haven't seen yet, and that we basically had 5 movies that we haven't seen that I think we should, and we
then
only have
Tim
time for
directed
2.
you.
And this was one that Tim pointed
See,
us to.
after your cup movie, this is redeeming you.
Well, you see,
Yeah.
I know what I
Two
like,
Girls,
but
One
I
Cup?
also
Yeah.
I kind of know what other
Two Girls,
people
One
like.
Cup.
2 Girls, One Cup was on my top 5 the year it came
That's
out.
first. Oh, okay. Oh, because it wasn't 2016.
that was several years ago,
Okay,
of
that
course.
makes more sense to me. But this is directed by Garth Davis, written by Saru Brierley. Did you guys know that? So it's written by Saru.
I did not know that.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
So
Okay.
Saru is the main character.
Was it written by? It's based on his book.
So I guess it's written. Yeah.
The screenplay is not.
The screenplay,
it's
yeah.
adapted by someone
But I
else, yeah.
still, I guess I didn't realize that going into it. So it stars Dev Patel, who is the guy from Slumdog Millionaire, right?
Yes.
He does some method acting or character acting or whatever it is for this. Gain some weight. Like he looks different to me.
He was
in
looking
this.
ripped. He was looking
he
cut.
had. They said that he had to gain weight for this role in order to play this character. So he did, like, put on the pounds, started working out, doing all this stuff. Because he was kind of a scrawny guy when I saw him last. But anyway, it's also Nicole Kidman, Rooney Mara, Suni Pawar, Abhishek Bharate, and Priyanka Bose. You can
Sure.
I can just
Nobody-
see you
I don't know.
grimacing.
We have
okay.
no idea.
Okay.
In front of me. I do
All
not have
right.
it in front of me.
Everyone's just smirking
No,
as they look
Priyanka,
around.
sounds right.
So yeah, it feels right. So a 5-year-old Indian boy gets lost in the streets of Calcutta. Horrifying story. This is like a worst case scenario as a parent. I mean, in the age of helicopter parenting, in which I mean, we are. We're clearly helicopter parents. Where they live, this little boy goes off at a very young age. Like I said, 5. His brother's probably maybe several years older.
Gadoo.
Oh, Gadoo. Don't even say his name out loud. So anyway, they go off and they wander in the night. They're on their own all the time during the day, doing tasks you would never imagine that children should be doing. But, they're working as kids living in India, and go off and Saru basically gets lost. That's all I'll say, is he gets lost. And it's the story that ensues where he ends up becoming adopted by a family, and it's his life 25 years later, and it recounts, event by event, him tracing back his life and trying to sort of find his roots. It's a powerful movie, I thought, on a lot of levels. I think from a parental level, I think you're identifying. I think it brought up a lot of social issues around society, I think, in India, understanding that, 80,000 kids go missing every year. There's 4 million kids that live on the streets and are homeless in India. And they reflect a lot of that in a way that I thought was they did it in a really tactful way where they didn't, push it on you, but you definitely walked away with the message that there's a clear problem with what's going on, going on there with the children. So I thought, for me, it was a movie that resonated in terms of, it helped me learn something. It was a complete story. I thought it had a great message, and the acting was great.
There was some good messaging too on the adoption process and the challenges of adopting, and some of the kind of difficulties that you might face and questions that you might have about number one, being adopted and being adoptive parents as well too. So,
I gotta say, so it's a movie in 2 halves. The first half is Saru as a boy getting lost. I think the first half is amazing. I think it's one of the great films about a child that has come out in recent memory. It's like head and shoulders next to any Italian film from the 40s about like sad little children, which is very high praise for movies about sad little children. And then in the second half, it's adult. Saru is played by Dev Patel. I think it's much less interesting for reasons
Totally
that are not
agree.
worth getting into. But one of the things that bothered me a little bit about the film, I think so Nicole Kidman plays his adopted mother. I think the film does not give her as a character, I don't want to say a hard enough time. I wish it would interrogate her motivations for being this like sweeping in and gathering up little Indian children to adopt them because she has this like messiah complex kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's explained in this very strange scene late in the film why she has chosen to adopt these 2 Indian boys. And
it was a little strange.
I feel like that aspect of her character seems like something the movie could have needled a little bit more, I think. But
Yeah.
I agree that all the parts with Saru as a child, just amazing. The reason why it doesn't make my list is when I was being nitpicky, it was those aspects.
I mean, it's watching a guy using Google Earth.
Like
which
clicking
is
around.
super not interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the part of it too was they were actually following. I mean, this was based on a true story, so I think this actually happened. So this was like his actual path and trying to find his way home. So sometimes real life probably isn't that
And that's the
interesting.
thing. It falls into the bucket of like, this man had an interesting life, but it's not necessarily interesting as a dramatic story, which is more or less the same problem I had with like Hidden Figures this year.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, is that on either of your top 5s?
It might be. It might be. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, for you, sir. Or is it to me? No, to you.
Well, we can go in either way.
Yeah,
It
no, go
doesn't
for
matter.
it. We'll keep the pattern.
So my number 3 is The Lobster. So I know that
I had a feeling.
Rob and Carrie have feelings about The Lobster. So The Lobster is a parable in which, in the very near future, there is a social pressure to join in romantic couples strong enough that people who can't make a romantic relationship work have to go to these retreats where they are told that if they do not pair off within a set amount of time, I think it's 30 days, they will be transformed into an animal. So the main character is Colin Farrell, who goes to this facility where he decides he will be turned into a lobster if he can't find love. And then he kind of does, but it's also kind of in this really inauthentic way that's motivated more by fear than by actual romance. And it's a lot of stuff going on.
It's like real marriage, you know?
It's exactly.
Yeah.
It is literally a satire of the idea that, you know, in society you are in a lot of ways viewed as being sort of incomplete if you're not in a relationship. And so a lot of people make really bad relationship choices because they feel that it will make them better even though they're really just trying to live up to this ideal. So it's a satire of that idea. It's by a director from Greece named, I'm going to butcher his name, Yorgos Lanthimos, I believe, who in 2009 made a movie called Dogtooth, which you guys would probably hate even more than you hated The Lobster. But
a little less than Tusk.
What he does is he makes these movies about basic human, like the building blocks of culture. So Dogtooth is about the family. And his next film after that, which is called Alps, which is not nearly as good as the other two, is about grief and how we pay respect to the dead. And then this film is about love and marriage. And so what he's basically doing is just ripping apart these things that we agree in, Western capitalist society these are what matter. These are what culture is important, has deemed as important, and does so in, I'd say, a very funny way. I mean, obviously not everyone's going to have the same sense of humor, but I thought The Lobster was hilarious. There
were points that I laughed. The main point I remember was when they were making the joke about, if you don't get along, I recommend having children. And there was this whole
we'll assign you children, yeah.
We'll assign you children, and because that always fixes everything. Right. I liked I got it in some respects, and then in other ways it just felt over the top and kind of like it was trying to be extreme to me. But again, maybe I missed something too.
There is a scene that I think we can describe it without spoiling its function in the plot. You see an animal die in a very brutal. You don't see it die. You see it dead, and we are made aware that it died in a very
and that's where I check out.
Way. And I was going to say that is what you're referring to as like a little bit.
It's in my top 3 reasons not to see a movie.
And
animal
I respect
death.
that. And it's a horrifying, arbitrary moment, but I think that it's not.
Actually, twice.
The movie's not unaware that it's horrifying and arbitrary.
But the early death,
comforting if you don't.
And there's a later death, and at first you're like, "What's happening?"
Well, the later death is the one that seems like extreme. What just happened? Like the movie has just taken a very fucked up turn at this point.
Yeah,
and I mean,
was enraged.
It's a reason to be uncomfortable watching the movie, and I'm not gonna take you to task for not liking the movie, but I thought it was such an impressively angry satire of culture with really, really amazing performances. You've got Colin Farrell, Rachel Weisz, Lea Seydoux, John C. Reilly, and Ben Whishaw are more or less the leads. It's Farrell and Weisz throughout. I thought all of them were terrific. They all had really good timing. They all play this really kind of absurd Kafka-esque world in a very straight, normalized way, which I think helps make the world feel more. I mean, it's clearly this is a very heightened movie. It's not a movie that takes place in anything resembling the real world, but it feels like it does because it's so understated in so many ways, both visually and in the acting.
Yeah, and because of that, it didn't click with me, but there were aspects that certainly did. And this is one, unlike Terrence Malick, where I understand what was trying to be accomplished, and I totally get it, and I appreciate it. It's just the movie itself didn't resonate with me. Sure. So I've certainly done that, is pretend to be something that I'm not in order to fit the mold of a relationship, because that is the most important thing. It's like, oh, you got to find someone. So, did I take hip hop classes to try to impress someone? Absolutely.
Is this me? I hate hip hop.
Oh, you don't like hip hop? Oh, I took the classes. It wasn't Carrie.
What did you do to impress me? I don't even remember.
I was myself.
So I just want to make sure we all understand. How many women were you with before Carrie, Rob?
Yeah, Rob. How many?
No, but in reality, there are a lot of things, a lot of hoops that you jump through in thinking that you have to be not yourself. But that's what I'm trying to get to is and I think that's what it says is being yourself is ultimately kind of the best way to go. So that you're not.
I don't think it's optimistic enough to even come to that.
It doesn't go there. It implies that. But that's where I ended up with you, Kara, is I didn't have to take up hip hop dancing or
maybe you should. I could have used some hip hop.
Become a vegetarian. Although that did work out well in your case. That I had that kind of going for me, and that skill set.
I gotta be honest. I God love the vegetarians. I couldn't date a vegetarian.
I know.
What would we do?
I eat fish.
But that's what I'm saying is if you became smitten with someone who was, there is that, and I think this movie touches on it, how, there are people like myself who would go and be like, oh yeah, vegetarian, let me try that. I could be vegetarian. And you're doing it solely for the purpose of trying to get...
What did you become a vegetarian for?
No reason.
Is this like the time you started working at Pause? Pause, the adoption?
Person. Oh, same person.
She was weird. She was super weird. I think Tim would have liked her.
We're off.
Well, we've already determined I couldn't
We've
date a
already determined-
vegetarian.
she would like the lobster.
And it's not that I think
That's for
vegetarians
sure.
are bad people. Just like I eat
Inherently.
socially. That is what I do as a person.
Right. No, I
Number
get it.
3 for me, I think will be on your list.
Man.
It's 2016. Obviously 2016's Arrival. Hour 56 minutes.
Not on my list, no.
Really? Didn't
No.
make the cut.
Higher bar.
I was flipping and flopping with line. Yeah, it was hard for me. 8.2 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes 94%. Directed by Denis Villeneuve. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I can't pronounce it, but I know it's not what you just said. Villeneuve, I think.
Villeneuve. But did I get Denis right?
Denis is correct.
Okay, thank you. So half there. Most people would say Dennis. Starring Amy
Québécois.
Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker. It's probably one of the highest box office grossing movies of the year. It's doing really well. It's not.
It's not one of the highest.
Not the highest, but it's doing very well.
I think it might be the highest grossing of the Best Picture nominees.
Of the Best Picture nominees.
Don't quote me on that.
12 mysterious spacecraft appear around the world, and it takes a linguistic. You're doing it again. You
I
got
did
the
it.
you got the
Sorry.
Facebook Live. You're so curious. This is
No,
why
I'm
you
not.
don't
I
multitask.
just sorry. Hang on, sorry.
Hi,
Hang
Facebook
on.
Live
Let me just
followers. You were being-
stop
No, I
time.
didn't. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I won't.
Can
say.
we cut this part before we actually post the podcast?
Sorry.
We can try.
I don't know what I did. Sorry.
Why? Yeah. Apparently,
know why.
I'm not interesting enough to continue to follow.
You were kind of dragging on.
Louise Banks
Yeah.
is tasked with interpreting the language of an apparent alien visitor. I really like this movie. It's the scope. I tend to give more credit to movies that have a bigger scope, and this one had a lot of money invested in it from a visual perspective and scale. So I tended to weight it higher on that regard. I really liked the language aspect, which I've never really investigated. I've talked about this on a prior episode as well too. The whole dealing with language as a reason to avoid conflict and to being the first step in conflict is to establish a common ground through language. I thought was really interesting. It dealt with linguistics and things like that. It's nominated for 8 Oscars. Audience members Kathy Clark, Diego Jewell, Rachel Scatia, and Mark Falconer also said it was their top pick as well. But yeah, there were some parental elements as well too. Dealing with time travel. I'm a big time travel buff.
I think I need to see that movie again. Spoiler. I need to see it again.
It is a spoiler.
I still feel a bit lost. I mean, I wasn't expecting the end, and then it was one of those where I need to see it again and go back and replay it and see.
The
what I
end
missed.
makes the movie more interesting
Totally.
because it suddenly changes.
the dynamic
Spoiler
of the whole
alert.
movie.
Let's just call it a spoiler alert. Cover your ears. Go la la la. It changes what appear to be flashbacks into flash forwards, which is
Right.
really fascinating.
Yes.
Especially in terms of how it like talks
Yeah.
over the movie. Then once you
Totally.
realize that. And I think the ending is like a better version of Interstellar in a lot of ways, which I really liked. I admire it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
I agree.
you took
I agree.
the time travel philosophy of Interstellar and applied it here, that's my only knock of why it's not higher on my list. Is because I don't agree with its time travel philosophy.
Time travel is fake.
It is not fake.
It's not.
It is not. But if
Rob's done it
let's
before.
pretend if it were. I just don't get. There's an aspect I don't get, and we can hang on to it for later. But
this might
I
be
just
worth
don't
bringing up
understand.
again once everyone in the world has seen it.
Spoiler episode.
It's not actually a time travel movie.
It's just different cuts. It's like Manchester. It couldn't be the same as like a Manchester by the Sea.
It's closer
where
to that.
It's closer to that where it's just cutting
I don't want to go
different
into it because
time
we will be
elements.
deep into spoiler territory. Plus, then we'll be talking for like an hour about this movie.
Sure.
It's not about time travel. It's sort of the secret.
I understand.
To that movie.
I understand. But there's a theory on time travel that I resonate more with than the one that was applied here, and it just doesn't.
This is not about theories of time travel. This is about theories of how language works.
I know.
Agreed.
I
Like
know.
Yeah.
literally, I'm not saying like it's not about time travel. It's about blah blah. It's literally time
It's
travel
really
doesn't
not.
exist in the movie.
Well, someone will have to explain it to me.
Yeah,
later.
it's more. It's just different cuts of time. That's what's
I
happening.
understand. I
Yeah.
still think
It's viewing the flow of time from different angles.
Agreed.
you would have had to have gone through it one time through, in order to know certain things, in order to apply them in a prior time. It has to have happened one time.
We'll
Don't
talk.
spoil
Yeah,
it.
we'll talk about it later. We'll
All
talk
right.
about it later.
We're going to head to our break, and we come back. I know we're going a little bit long on time. We'll go through our remaining movies, but before we do, we get asked a lot about other ways to support the show. So Patreon is one way. Direct from our website, you can access our Patreon page, which provides you access to a ton of perks. 2 recent perks that were procured was our Critics' Choice Award by handle Not Fenimore. That's how we know
One
him.
of my regular commenters, he has a real name. If he wants us to share it, we can certainly do so, but Not Fenimore on the blog and on the current site, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the Patreon gift. Picked up our Critics' Choice Award, which entitles them to a personal review of a movie by Tim, and then also a worth mentioning segment by Carrie and I. The movie that was chosen was Bon Cop, Bad Cop, and then the other Patreon procurement that was done was our Sundance Jury Prize, done by my parents. Aw.
You didn't have to
Thanks,
say
Mom
that.
and Dad.
You didn't have to say that.
My dad has
You could have
chosen
made yourself sound cooler.
Guns and Navarone Care for you and I to watch and to talk about on
Your dad has talked about this movie ever since I've known him. So
Have you seen Guns of Navarone?
It's
Gregory
such
Peck?
a dad movie.
It is a dad movie.
It's such a dad movie.
And then
So we'll see it.
Like you, by virtue of having children, Rob, will love it. I am sort of like, this is a fine example of 1960s war filmmaking, and you, Carrie, will just be like glazed over.
The worst. Okay, good
that's
to
a
know.
prediction. That's a prediction.
I will
for-
challenge
It's
you, and
definitely-
I will try and stay awake.
Not to like essentialize gender movie. It's a guy movie. It's 100% a guy movie.
yeah,
We're
And I don't-
looking forward.
I don't like all guy
We're
movies.
looking forward to Tim doing more reviews as part of the Patreon process. But I know that you have a backlog. a little bit.
I should just clarify and apologize in a public forum to Not Fenimore. I do have cancer fundraiser reviews left. I'm going to get to those as quickly as I humanly can, which is unfortunately not terribly quick. I will then probably take a week off, and then I will catch up with whatever Patreon reviews we have at that point. Following that, if you donate to Patreon and request a review, you'll get that review will show up within the week. Once I'm caught up. So we're talking like March/April.
Other perks too, dinner and a movie with us. You can also pick a whole segment that we talk about if it's a top 5 or a spoiler alert movie that we're going to be doing. So go to our Patreon page, check out what's available there. Also on Amazon, we have
Very easy way to support the show if you
Yeah.
like us.
Yeah, click through.
Shopping.
Just
Just
go
shopping.
about your shopping. Go to our website, alternateending.com. Click on the Amazon banner. Seamlessly go about your purchases. All the proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, here are a couple of things that were purchased. A lot of books, guys.
Okay.
Religious kind of themed. All the Way to
Is you,
Heaven.
Tim?
No, sadly not yet.
Is that you?
All
No?
the Way to Heaven.
No?
Letters of Dorothy Day. Not familiar with that. That's that one. The Duty of Delight. The Diaries of Dorothy Day. So Dorothy Day.
Someone got addicted to the letter D and didn't know how to stop it.
there were some collected poems, 1945 to 1990. Good Dinosaur on DVD purchase.
nice.
Yeah, so solid.
kinda wanna know.
Admire
who saw that,
movie.
yeah.
The movie got too much pile on. I like
Yeah.
that movie.
We'll have,
The Cross of Christ book. We also have a new Fire TV stick with the Alexa voice remote. I've been thinking about getting some home automation Alexa.
I know you are.
really
Rein
like
it
to
in.
do that.
Rein it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last books, Story of the Jews, Finding the Words, 1000 BC to 1492. I'm not sure why the 1492 was like a cutoff for that particular book, but either way, we appreciate all the purchases that people make through Amazon.com. Go ahead and click through our banner next time you have the opportunity. When we get back, we will wrap up our top 5 movies of 2016. And welcome back to Alternating, where we're talking about our top 5 movies of 2016. Any overlap here? Are we going to cross over on 2 and 1?
No. One of them we will, and one of them we won't.
Surprisingly or not, I guess, as Tim pointed out, 2 and 1 have not been compromised at the moment. So, all right, go ahead, Care. Number 2 for you.
Number 2 for me is the flick Captain Fantastic.
Not on my list.
Directed by Matt Ross, also written by Matt Ross. Stars Viggo Mortensen, George McKay, Samantha Eisler, a whole brood of kids, basically, who I've never heard of before that have red hair. Right?
I feel like Captain
Is it
Fantastic.
on your list?
No.
Oh.
This is the Lobster moment, like in terms of my
You just
response.
don't get it. Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
What?
I greatly disliked it.
I know, I saw
No, I
it.
mean,
So
you
this
don't
is the
get-
one that
you
I
don't
said.
get why
Oh
it's
my
on our
gosh.
list.
So here's the thing. So this is what when I was mentioning to you earlier, I was like, I think we might disagree on something. I saw on our own webpage that you gave it a 2.5. And I'm like, how do you
2.5?
2.5. I did not like this movie.
Oh, how would you not? It was super.
Well, I'll let you defend
I'll tell you about it.
and then
Yeah.
I will rip it to shreds.
That's right. And I'll let you be wrong in your critiquery. So, I've talked about this once before, and going back to why it makes the very top is I've told everybody I know about it, even people that I normally don't talk to about movies, people that don't actually care about movies. I continue to mention the movie. I think it crosses a lot of character types or people types that would like this movie. I think it sells to a lot of people. So it stars Viggo Mortensen, who's a dad who is set up in the Pacific Northwest, who's a guy who's decided to throw away civilization. Is done with, everything that it means to be a part of, I guess, society and what that brings to people and capitalism and all that kind of stuff and, money and tangible things and all those things that people value. He sort of dismissed with he and his wife and his many children. I think he has 6 kids. So he takes them off into the country or into the woods of the Pacific Northwest. He raises them with this highly rigorous physical and intellectual lifestyle. So his kids are ultimately brilliant kids. And for me, they're forced because of a circumstance that happens to re-enter sort of like civilized world and adapt their kids and himself, where they've been removed from it for a long time, to, just general, normal everyday life. And there was just everything about this movie. This movie was funny. It was sad. It was hard. It touched on a lot of our own societal, the meaning of society, like what we do value and what we place value on. So it calls you to question things about how you feel and how you live. And at the same time too, great acting performances. I laughed. Like Viggo's performance was outstanding.
Great. I'm not going to,
yeah.
Viggo is an absolute, he is salvaging what he can. That's how I would respond to that.
I thought it was Little Miss Sunshine meets, what's the other one that I said? It was kind of like Grizzly Adams, but it was his kids are hardcore. Those are the kids I want. I want hardcore kids that can recite, sonnets.
Dostoevsky.
And those too.
Yeah.
So do you have, is this on your list, Rob? You
Yeah.
kind of implied that it might be.
It was hard for me not to put it on there. I understand its shortcomings. I think what I'm realizing through this process of having these discussions with you guys is I tend to value story and acting that really vaults a movie to the top for me. If I really resonate with the story and the acting, cinematography probably a little bit after that, but score I probably rarely pay attention to much more if I'm moved. There are other elements, but this one, because I'm a parent and Carrie and I have had discussions about just being so upset with society of just uprooting the kids and taking them somewhere else and just starting life just in isolation. That's why this movie, it's not on my list, but it was.
We would do it, but we would just die very quickly.
Yeah, we wouldn't succeed.
So
See, my problem with the film is I think it starts there, and that is also where it ends. It does not, to me, engage with the ramifications of anything it's presenting. It presents living in the wilderness according to this very sort of anarcho-socialist code of ethics as a lovable quirk. You mentioned Little Miss Sunshine. I think it's very much like Little Miss Sunshine, except in Little Miss Sunshine, we're looking at characters who basically exist in our world and are like us. And in this movie, there's this enormous gap between them and the normal lived experience of the audience. And I think that the movie is just not dealing with that in a way that feels, I don't want to say responsible because that's not really the right way to look at it. It's not following through in any way. And there's later on in the movie, there's a lengthy subplot involving, I'm going to try and put this in a not spoilery way. The Viggo Mortensen's father-in-law attempts to sort of get in the way of how he's raising the kids. And I think the film thinks it's being even-handed and sort of doing a weigh these two different ways of dealing with children. And it's just not. It's really not interested at all in dealing with the ideas it's presenting, I don't think. I think it lacquers on this sort of affectation of socialism in a way that's very much just a character trait at no more depth than, say, this character only ever wears yellow shirts would be a character trait with the same level of like resonance to me.
So where I disagree is in that I think where they did do that was you started to see the shortcomings of his lifestyle. So you started to see how his kids were affected when they actually came into society, if you want to call it. Like if they actually introduced society, and you start to realize like there are negatives. He thinks he's doing this positive, wonderful thing, and he's having to grow as a character and realize like there's dramatic downsides to what you're doing. Yeah, your kid's super smart and physically fit and whatever, but at the same time, there's dramatic things that you're withholding from them that they need to be.
And I certainly think that's what the movie thinks it's doing. I don't think it's getting there. But I mean, like, far be it from me, like, I don't have children, so like obviously if this resonated with you as parents, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong for that.
Yeah, maybe it was simple. Maybe it was simple enough that there wasn't tons to grab at, like you said, but I think it was one of those where it was a simple enough message to walk away with that it could resonate, I think, and not have to feel like, well, there was so many layers to dig between and subtext to understand. It was like, yeah, this is a really clear message on society and how we live, and you could walk away with something.
As you say it, I think I was so excited to buy into it that I kind of maybe kind of pushed I pushed all of those. To me, it's got a hot potato, and it doesn't realize it's got a hot potato. It's just kind of.
Are you talking about Viggo's peen?
Well, obviously, very hot potato.
There is some Viggo nudity.
Viggo nudity is like, of course, it's
just to be expected now. At this point, which Eastern Promises sequel supposedly coming out.
Really?
I don't know why you would want to make a sequel.
You wouldn't. Is the answer to what you just said.
Speaking of sequels, or number two. What number two for you, sir?
My number two is Tony Erdmann, which is
foreign language.
It is foreign language. It's a German film. It is a very, very long German film. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes, I think. Nominated for the Best Foreign Film Oscar. It is, I think, broadly considered the front runner to win. It's this really fascinating. So it starts as the sort of the Zorba the Greek structure, where you have this woman. Oh my God, I'm going to forget both of the character names. It doesn't matter. So you have this woman who is a German businesswoman, currently stationed in Romania. So there's already this like pan-European thing going on. She's very uptight and very like concerned about getting everything right. And she's extremely aware of being a woman in a male-dominated world and how she's sort of being preyed upon sexually, but also like using that to her advantage to get ahead. And her dad is this like goofball idiot who dresses up to play pranks on people, and he has these terrible wigs and these stupid-looking fake teeth. And so he spends the whole movie trying to get her to loosen up, and that's basically the plot. So it's this very stock film about the free spirit teaching the pent-up businesswoman how to live life in a more loose way. But there's so much that is like stapled onto that in terms of the role of a woman in modern Europe in a capitalist and business context, and what sort of sacrifices she has to make and what she runs up against. And the writer-director, Maren Ade, is a woman. So it comes from that like very distinct perspective of like, this is what a woman would think about that a man would not think about. And then there's a lot about fathers and daughters and just parenting in general. And it's very sympathetic to both characters, even though, we ultimately want the father to win out because we agree that like she's not living a good life and she needs to shake herself out of it. But at the same time, we can feel very embarrassed along with her as he's being goofy in ways that are destructive and sort of socially unacceptable. So it's just this amazing, amazing character piece about these two really interesting characters, father and daughter. It's also really funny in a way that if I say it's a 3-hour long German film, you will never, ever believe that it's that funny. There are 2 scenes in particular, both of which come near the end of the movie, both of which are especially funny because they come after like 2 hours of movie where it just keeps rolling out, and we're getting more and more frustrated with just watching this stalemate between these 2 characters. And then when that stalemate finally starts to break, it's just such an extraordinarily happy moment, and it gets that way in part because the film is so long. I will not say what happens in those 2 scenes, other than to say that one of them is the funniest karaoke scene I've ever seen in a movie.
Top 5 karaoke scenes. We got to
potentially. And the other is the funniest sequence of full frontal nudity I've ever seen in a movie.
Okay.
Also a good top 5.
So-
Also another good top
well,
five.
I know Carrie immediately responds to full
I
frontal
know.
nudity. There is pee. You do see hanging dong in 20
I'm pretty critical, so we'll see.
I'm not going to say it's good. I'm just saying
not
it
gonna
exists.
Okay.
Well, I know Carrie and I both
I heard
have
you
it
say
on-
it was great. No.
On our list of things to do is to catch up on maybe some of the Oscar-nominated movies that we haven't seen. So this one probably to the top of the
It's
list.
currently making its way across the United States. Here in Madison, it's going to be opening, I believe, in 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, so there's time.
And it's super
Okay.
long. Like I'm not going to dispute the longness of this film, but the longness is very.
Are you still talking
very
about
natural.
the peen part?
It's so long. It's like down to the floor, man.
well,
It's like I want to push myself to see these because you're not really selling me when you're like it's so long and it dragged down.
I mean, you can't pretend it's
if
not
it's
long.
up for
it's
something,
2 hours and 43
right?
minutes.
And if it's up for something, and you're saying I really, really enjoyed it, and it's number 2, then
it's
worth
hilarious.
seeing. Yeah,
It is
Okay.
a funny as hell movie.
humor is a big part. Like I know I like darker movies, but
Yeah.
there needs to be elements of humor in it, and that's what I like typically about Jeremy Saulnier movies and other movies like that. Is that it infuses bits of humor where you're laughing out loud at inappropriate times, and it's
Yeah.
it's like-
This is not like a drama that has funny bits. It's a comedy.
It's just a comedy.
Like you would look
Okay.
at
Funny
this
bits.
film and say this is a comic film.
Okay.
That is its genre.
a number 2 for me, a movie that did get me laughing quite a bit. I mean, favorite to win the Oscars, and I think I'm going to be stealing maybe one of your number 1s here is La La Land on your
that
list.
was my number 1.
It was your number 1. I figured it might be.
Thanks.
2 hours, 7 minutes, not quite as long as Tony Erdmann. IMDb gives it 8.6, which gives it enough as number 31 already on the all-time list for IMDb.
You know, the IMDb list,
IMDb list, I
has
know.
what
Flaws.
we call in academia methodological problems.
Directed by, I'm just so excited about this director, Damien Chazelle.
He's
Starring,
only like 34,
Yeah,
32
super
or
young.
34. He's
I
super
think he's
young.
30 he's quite young. He's
He's like 32. Yeah, something like
but
that.
talented writer as well. So we're starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. Synopsis. When I saw this synopsis, when we were researching our top 5 most anticipated movies, I just couldn't see this being something that I would look forward to.
Yeah.
Even though I loved Whiplash.
generally hate musicals.
Yeah.
Not hate, but I really highly dislike musicals, generally speaking. So I was surprised. But
And
anyway, go on.
He directed Whiplash, and I loved Whiplash, but still, with the synopsis, a jazz pianist falls for an aspiring actress in Los Angeles, knowing that it would be a musical, I had my reservations.
Yeah.
Even going in, opening
Ditto.
scene, had my reservations.
Oh.
I thought the opening scene was amazing. I love the.
That's
I don't
where
know,
you
very
probably
much-
loved it,
Please,
right.
Jump in.
The opening scene made me realize I was in good hands. The
Yes.
only problem, and when I talk about why it's not in my top 5, I will get to this. The opening scene has remarkably bad sound mixing.
Okay.
So it's a musical. The
Wouldn't know.
musical number is setting. I think it's very easy to tell. Like the musical number is setting the scene of the world. It's like
very
here's
easy.
all of these people who know they're going to lose. This is a high stakes, vicious industry. All of them are going to fail, but they want to try anyway because that's their dream. That's what the song is about. That's what the film is about. And you can't hear the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like when I've seen it twice now in theaters, and both times I was just like, "Ruh." And the second time I even knew the lyrics, and I still was like, "Ruh."
A movie you've seen twice in theaters, you know the lyrics to, and does not make your top 5 list. Interesting.
We're gonna talk about.
All right. No, but
Yeah.
so.
I will say this: it is the only Best Picture nominee to make my top 20.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So-
okay.
so spoiler
So
alert
a
for
down
those who
year
have
for
not
you
yet read
from a
my-
nominee. Okay.
You know, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is my favorite of the Best
So
Picture nominees.
I don't disagree. What I realized in the opening scene is like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and it's going to be a musical.
It's funny because I thought the exact opposite. I was like, the first opening scene, I was like, oh, crapper. This
Well, that's what
thing's
I'm
gonna
saying.
suck.
No,
It's
but
like,
no, I'm
they're
saying-
already singing. Like, somebody even told me, they're like, there's very little singing. I mean, it's barely a musical.
Well, there
and
is very
yeah.
little singing.
it felt like a lot of singing to me.
There are only 6
And,
numbers.
I mean, they were long numbers, but maybe relative to other musicals. But anyway, I'll go back
well,
to
no,
it.
I want to say
was-
that it started off, and I was amazed at the fact that it was all one take. I mean, the setup for it, and that's what I was observing first, was like, that was amazing, and this is going to be a musical, and I'm out.
And I gotta
that's-
go. Yeah,
I
I see.
gotta get going.
Yeah.
But I was like, I appreciate Damien. Thank you for taking the time.
you're
The
like,
choreography,
Ryan Gosling.
Awesome. And then I was like, I'm at 3.5 stars at this point.
Sure.
And I'm like, kudos for the awesome filmmaking and the direction and the choreography, but I'm out. And then the story picked up.
Yeah.
And I
You're hooked,
I'm hooked.
right?
I'm bought in. I actually found a little bit of Ryan Gosling's acting not to be super great. The early parts of it.
I found it was fine.
It's clearly the case that Emma Stone is better.
Thank you.
As an actor and as a singer.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love Ryan Gosling, but he cannot sing.
There's just something about him, though, that I feel like if we had met, it could have worked out. And I think everybody that sees movies by him feels that way.
And I think that's more or less
you-
so
You felt that way, too.
I will share this with all. I walked out of that movie and I turned to the friend, and this was the first official thing I ever said to any other human being about La La Land. I want to be the meat in a Ryan and Emma sandwich.
Totally.
So, no, their chemistry is palpable.
It's like it's amazing. Well, did either of you see Crazy Stupid Love?
Yes.
Both of us.
It's so good.
So
They're
good.
so good together.
Yes.
Especially with the gym scene.
And that's where Ryan
the
Gosling
leg.
excels. I think the first part of I just didn't buy into. I felt like Ryan Gosling was acting in the first. I couldn't get past the character that he was playing. It was just odd for him.
Well, it's the character he's playing.
Yeah.
Like that is a character who is turned on in a way that I think a certain level of like brittle inauthenticity is part of the character.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But the storyline behind it and the trying to succeed and all the turns that the characters have to make along the way, I bought in, and then the end was
and
we can't talk about.
Yeah,
We'll spoil it.
We
spoil this.
cannot talk about the end. My pledge to the listeners and readers of Alternate Ending: we are going to, at some point, talk about this movie because there's a lot to unpack, and all of it hinges on the ending in a little way. But
Yeah,
I'm just proud
it was
that
a complete movie for me.
there is a director like this out there who's doing what he wants to do at such a young age. It gives me hope for what's next for him because he can call his own shots.
And and I did not care for Whiplash. Honestly, I thought it was fine. I thought it was a fine movie that was sort of a little bit too like burly in its masculinity, and Miles Teller is not someone that I like seeing movies.
Who was going to play
How much worse would that have been, by the way?
Sorry, Miles. I do love you, buddy.
I would never have bought it if it wasn't.
Well, that's the thing. You need it
if
to
it
be a
was
movie
him.
because the first hour, well, not hour, but the first half hour of the movie, it's not putting them together.
No.
And you need to want them to get together.
Totally.
And no one would want Miles Teller
No,
to
you're like,
get
keep
with Emma
driving,
Stone.
man. Yeah, totally. I read that in a bunch of places. They were like, that would have been a fail if they had him.
Friends of the show, Brendan Kline and Zev Burrows also picked La La Land as their top movie, but nominated for tied for a record.
Tied for the record for 14.
nominations.
The record is also held by All About Eve and Titanic, I believe.
Will it sweep?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Obviously, once we get closer to Oscar night, we're going to talk about. Well, it can't sweep. The most it can win is 13 because it's nominated against itself in Best Song.
That's right.
I think its theoretical maximum is 11, and I think its plausible maximum is 9. But we'll talk about that.
It was
later.
excellent. I was very surprised because, again, I don't love singing mixed with movies, but I just walked away and I was like, I feel really good. And I read your review about it too, which I told myself I wasn't going to do, but then I did anyway because I don't know why I did, but I did.
I never listen to your guys' podcast, so you should not read any of my reviews.
I rarely read your reviews, but
Thank you.
You're actually very well written. And so I actually appreciated your writing. So I read this one and it was exactly how I felt in a lot of ways in terms of I love a movie that you walk out of and you feel better. Like you feel empowered. And I felt empowered when I left this. Like the whole like here's to the dreamers, the dream kind of mentality. And you know what? There should be like that is what life's about, is dreaming and thinking about the future and growing and being better and trying new things. And I love when a movie inspires you to do that.
And I know a couple people. It's weird. I've heard a couple of my friends who really did not want the movie to be as uncynical as it is.
Sure.
It's like, no, they should fail. That should be the point. It should be all about how in Los Angeles
real life, yeah.
It's like, well, F off.
Yeah.
And then I've also read a couple of things for people who like feel like the ending is too trendily nihilistic and like, spoiler, so we can't talk about it. But basically that the end is unsatisfying in a way that exists only to be unsatisfying. And for me, it's neither of those things. For me, it's like this very lovely story about two human beings who just really... You root for them. They're not necessarily the most complex characters. They're not necessarily the best played characters, but they're so easy to sympathize with. And it's so easy to want them to get together.
Agreed.
Good stuff.
And it's not in my top 10.
Yeah.
But and that's mostly for, The singing, yeah, maybe not so much with Ryan Gosling.
Picky.
There's some, I mean, like, you know, these are the fine grains distinctions.
And I've heard you're quite the singer, so.
One of these days, maybe the next podcast, I will rousingly lead us all in another day of sun. I think that it is not super well paced, but like, I love it. It is the movie that left me feeling the best.
Agreed.
Not even the happiest, just the best.
The best.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think we stole Carrie's.
That was Carrie's number one, right?
I'm done
Carrie's
for the day.
one,
all right.
so we're left with your number one.
So my number one, which I only recently saw, it's actually one of the films I reviewed on Alternate Ending before I reviewed it. I never reviewed it on Antagony Ecstasy, so it's quite new to me. So if you want to take a little grain of salt here, The Red Turtle.
Wow.
Which is a very weird, like, Belgian, French, Japanese co-production, animated by some French people, but also using some Japanese animators from Studio Ghibli, produced by Isao Takahata, who my long-term readers know that I have the world's biggest heart-on for Takahata. He made Grave of the Fireflies, which is one of the films that everyone should see. But this film was directed by Michael, I'm going to not pronounce his name right. He's a Dutch animation filmmaker, Michael Dudok de Wit. And there was a film he made in 2000 called Father and Daughter, one of the all-time great animated shorts, just this very beautiful, wordless little fable. I kind of have an axe to grind against that film because it beat Rejected for the short film Oscar, which is one of my all-time favorite cartoons in history of everything. But so he's a great animation director. This is his first feature, very much in the spirit of what he's made before. Not a single line of dialogue. So even though it is French and I am getting the heads that are shaking at me right now. So it's a French-Japanese, but there's not a word of French or Japanese in it. It's this fairy tale, basically, about a man who's stranded on an island. It appears to be the Pacific. It has the foliage of it. It's like a Robinson Crusoe thing. So he builds a raft, and something destroys his raft when he tries to sail off the island. And this happens a second time. This happens a third time. And the third time it happens, he discovers that this large red sea turtle has been destroying his raft. So he tries to figure out, like, what can I do to stop this red sea turtle? So what he ends up doing, when the turtle crawls up on the beach, he turns it on the back of its shell and like leaves it there to die while he goes off and builds his raft. The next day starts to feel very guilty about what he's done, goes back, finds that the turtle is dead. So now he's, feels this terrible sense of moral weight. And then the next day finds that the turtle has cracked open to reveal that it was in fact a woman, or maybe it has become a woman, maybe it always was a woman, maybe he's hallucinating a woman. The movie doesn't care which of those three things it is. So this man is now on an island with a woman. And at that point, it's a very short movie, and I'm already like a third of the way through it, so I'm not going to go into any more because of spoilers. It still really hasn't played anywhere other than New York and LA, so if you haven't seen it yet, that's probably because it hasn't played by you. It's not going to be in a lot of theaters, but it's very much worth seeing. It's this beautiful story about... It's sort of like the positive version of The Lobster in that it's about how people seek love at all costs, kind of. And it's gorgeous. It's animated, as I think I mentioned. It uses animation just in this really special way to sort of create these atmospheric backgrounds that really let the characters find their emotions and just move in really interesting ways. It was by far the most moving film I saw. Like, I just felt such a transport of emotion. And it's a very good film in all ways, but then the last 2 minutes are just like sledgehammer to the heart good. Like, wow. It just left me completely wrecked as to just what a beautiful fable it was about love.
Wow. Does it have a shot?
No. No. It's a silent movie made by a French person that no one's ever heard of. Dutch.
So you're saying there's a chance.
You've sold me on it.
Yeah.
I'm really interested.
I feel very compelled.
It's only 78 minutes or something like that. So even if you don't like animation or the idea of a wordless movie, there's not that much movie to it. So you don't have to go that long without words.
I will think about that one.
Number one for me,
you're regretting it right now, aren't you?
No, I don't regret it. It's just, this is a Rob movie. This is
That's all we can ask of you.
I'm cool with that. Like, I'm okay. And it's
I can't even
nominated
think
for
of
4
what
Oscars.
it is. Wait, it's
I was going to guess Deadpool until you said nominated for 4
nominated
Oscars.
for 4 Oscars. I can't even think of what it is.
Hell or High Water.
Oh.
That is
I wouldn't have put it one.
quintessential my type of movie. Hour 42 minutes. IMDb gives it a 7.7. Rotten Tomatoes 98% for what that's worth. Directed by David Mackenzie of Perfect Sense fame, which I still can't get over the fact that he's directed.
I mean,
Hell or
when
High
you
Water
get
and Perfect
one
Sense.
right, you get them all right. So
But I think the writer, and this is something that's been kind of a common theme in movies that I enjoy, is Taylor Sheridan, who did.
Taylor Sheridan is an outstanding screenwriter.
Who's that?
He did Sicario,
Sure.
which Denis Villeneuve
Yeah.
directed.
He's French. He's not Spanish.
Okay, thank you.
Try it again.
Yeah,
No.
Villeneuve.
that perfect. Yeah, that was it.
But Taylor Sheridan, he's going to be directing his own stuff soon.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see if he has that capability to be an auteur.
Because writing is writing and directing is directing, but he's an outstanding writer.
And he builds tension extremely well, and he just builds characters extremely well. And I don't know how much of it is then the actors kind of growing into something magical happens with Taylor Sheridan. So it happened with Ben Foster and Chris Pine, and then especially Jeff Bridges taking over the
it was a
roles
good movie.
of this movie.
Interestingly, Jeff Bridges is actually my least favorite performance in that film.
Is it?
I shouldn't say it's my least film. It works for the film, but he's just doing Rooster Cogburn again from True Grit.
Yeah.
And also for all 2 of you who ever saw R.I.P.D., basically that performance as well.
I'm one of the 2.
So great. So both of us who saw R.I.P.D. are sitting in this room right now. But it's the same character.
Yeah,
I didn't
it is.
see it. Yeah.
It's very
No.
bad.
Where you
Okay,
can
good.
barely understand what he's saying when he talks, but it was more of what he was emoting, and then the dynamic between the parallels between both sets of 2 characters.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that dynamic. It's a divorced father and his ex-con older brother resort to a desperate scheme in order to save their family's ranch in West Texas, and I know it has some flavors of No Country for Old Men kind of in it. It has that dusty West Texas look.
For sure.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I really enjoyed the brotherhood, and also just the
It's a lot more than a Western film.
yeah.
You know?
My thing with the film, I think it's great. I think it got overpraised in part because critics are aging white men who like aging white men things, and that's not a problem at all. It's a film that if it came out in the 70s, 30 other films just like it would have also come out the same year, and that's not a problem either. I find it to be a very excellent version of something that doesn't it doesn't have that X factor for me. It's like, oh, this was really good.
Right.
Like I can't say anything about that movie that doesn't work.
It was fine.
It doesn't like there's no.
It was
That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
It won't resonate
I
with
don't
me forever
disagree
kind
that
of thing.
it's not original in its presentation,
Which is why it's interesting that it's your number 1.
Yeah, I went back and forth, and I was like, which of these movies do I want to rush out and see again? It's probably like
Well, good
that,
for you.
that I'll watch on
That's
repeat.
how I feel about
awesome.
Captain
Is
Fantastic.
Hell or High Water.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
I
watch it.
certainly
La La Land.
I have no interest in saying that that's a bad pick. For me, it lacks
Fair enough.
zing.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Any other movies you guys want to throw out there to just make sure that people don't think you omitted them?
I mean, I pulled out Moana. Like I had a couple others with Moana. I
had
pulled
Moana
that
on
stuff
the list.
out. I
I'm-
pulled.
Yeah.
I had to pull a few that I thought, were they high caliber movies? Probably not, but I enjoyed them. So
The 2 that it hurt me the most to leave off my list were Camera Person and Kubo and the Two Strings.
Okay. Also movies we need to see. Thanks to Tim and all of the hours that we spent at Night Now updating. Remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our new website, alternateending.com. That's alternateending.com. Every episode, we randomly select one member of our audience who share their top movie picks. Based on those submissions, here are our audience's top movie selections. So this is going to be interesting. Tied for third, there were quite a few movies. Silence made the cut for our audience. Green Room, so good taste
nice.
there. And it was actually interesting. A lot of people who voted for Green Room also said Silence was really good. So now I'm thinking, did I miss out by not seeing
Well, you
Silence?
haven't missed it. It's still around.
Yeah.
You might have to see it so inside baseball for non-Madison people, but you might have to see it at 10 o'clock at night. So
Okay.
just
I
deal
mean,
with that.
It's
we
worth
can
it.
do that.
If people
Why don't you
who
do it?
liked Green Room say that Silence is their favorite
I
movie.
wanted to love Silence. I found it very chilly.
I heard it was long.
It's long. It is, I think, to the minute as long as Tony Erdmann, and not funny. And it's very Catholic, which is a terrible, bigoted thing of me to say, but it's very, very Catholic, and I am very not.
Also tied for third, Lobster Gets Some Love, La La Land, and Moonlight, which I didn't care for it.
I'm sorry. It's not that I didn't
Oh,
like
I liked
Moonlight.
I liked it.
I didn't care for it.
I liked
if
it.
Moonlight was a short film that was the last third of Moonlight, I would understand every drop of praise it's getting. I find the opening 2/3 to be very theatrically overwritten, and I think it's a very boring movie to look at, which is going to get me shot.
Yeah.
I think it is a movie that
like
is
when you
dull
leave this house, I think that's going to happen. I thought if they could have, I agree. I don't know that I would agree on the 2/3 portion of it, but I would agree on the condensing of it. Like if it could have been somehow condensed into like 30 minutes shorter and like made it, I think it would have been better because it felt
I
like
think it is maybe the best performed movie.
I thought it was
the
good.
cast is crazy.
I didn't like
good.
the last. Well, maybe spoiler, but I didn't like the last scene. We can talk about that in a spoiler episode. But I was like, come on, I needed more than that. Like
I know you
that's part of the movie.
I like closure.
You like resolution,
I like
so
resolution and
that's-
closure, and I don't like feeling left to be like, don't make me decide.
For me, it's funny.
you know?
A good movie necessarily doesn't provide that because I want to close it on my own. Or
No, I feel like there's a
the
wound
dots.
right now. I have a wound that's open, and
I
it's
feel like
a Band-Aid
for me,
or
if a
stitch.
lack of closure feels like it's true to the characters, I'm on board with it, and that very much felt like it was true
I
to the
agree,
character.
but again, I like things buttoned up, and this wasn't. And a lot of the movies lately haven't been. But
so second, and probably no surprise because just big franchise. Rogue One was for a lot of fans, and then Arrival #1.
Interesting.
So yeah,
I
for what
liked
that's
it,
worth. Our lucky winner from that pick was Joy Vigil, who selected Hidden Figures and Rogue One as her top choices. Joy, shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com. For details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Joy, be on the lookout for our top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, want to thank everybody for listening, and social media, want to say go to our Facebook page and like it if you haven't. Follow us on Facebook. On Twitter, check us out there. Where Tim and I are both tweeting away. Carrie, you're
I'm not
you're
tweeting
starting
away.
to set up a presence on there as well too. Most importantly, follow us on alternateending.com where we're posting regular updates there all the time with blogs.
And be sure to, after you're done listening to this podcast, check out my very extensive top 10, not just top 5 of the year, with all sorts of other bells and whistles, best movie posters, worst movies, best line of dialogue, and all sorts of stuff like that. So
Carrie also sheds a tear every time she goes onto our iTunes page and realizes that there are no new comments.
No, that's not true.
And reviews. So
I don't shed a tear. I shed a tear when I get one.
Oh, when you get one
Yeah.
of happiness.
It's a happy tear.
So go out to our iTunes and Google, and if you feel compelled to, leave us a nice review there, and star rating wherever you feel we.
Our last one was a
whatever we
5-star
deserve.
review.
Very nice.
From Rifey17 saying, perfect podcast to get through your long commute, which means make the podcast shorter. Rob and Carrie make you feel like you're in the room chatting it up about new releases and making movies from yesteryear. Keep it up, guys. So make it shorter. And yeah.
2 other things
Thanks
I want
for
to
the
point
review.
out too is we're doing an Oscar ballot contest. It's a little early, but it gives you time to think about it. We're going to be.
This is not how we make it shorter.
This is not how we make it shorter. I'm wrapping up. We're giving away $150 in gift cards. You don't even have to know anything about the Oscars to win. Just submit a survey, and you enter for a chance to win. We're also going to be hosting a little event here in Madison at Marcus Point Theater on Oscar night. Come meet Carrie and I if you're in the Madison area.
Sadly, I have professional obligations that are going to make it impossible for me to be there, but I will text Rob and have him say hi to everybody for me.
There you go. And tune in to our next show where we'll be talking about our top 5 first dates airing on Monday, February 13th. We'll catch you then.